Nonprofit Excellence. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm joined today by CNE's Director, Susie Polnazic.
Good morning. Thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you.
Yeah, as we get going here today, we invite you to stay on mute for today's conversation and communicate with us via the chat. We won't be having breakout rooms today, but we will have an opportunity to share out in the chat and ask some questions of our speaker today, and an opportunity to follow up individually with staff from Center for Nonprofit Excellence about the content of today's workshop and individual meetings in the future. I'm so glad you're here today to sharpen your financial focus. The theme for today's workshop emerged from surveys and conversations I've been fortunate to have with many of you. You're taking stock of the past few years, strategizing for the future where your team is thriving, your mission is more impactful than ever. And along the way, you're reaching out to trusted partners for guidance and leadership to help your organization navigate important financial decision-making. So here's what you can expect from us today. I'll be giving a brief presentation about financial leadership. We'll explore what it is and what supports you to strengthen this leadership muscle. We're going to be in conversation today with local leader Susie Brusa, who's been so generous to join us and help design today's programming. She's going to share her financial leadership journey and the places she's found support in her career. And we're really excited to share out a tool we've created that will encourage you to take back to your team. It's called the Financial Focus Checkup. We've created this confidential online assessment tool to help identify strengths and growth areas for your organization and to be an aid to you as you consider how to invest in your sustainability and, of course, most importantly, in the impact of your mission. And as we discuss and share the checkup today, the online tool I'm going to talk about, it features 22 subjective questions, hopefully generative questions, that'll help your organization self-assess and examine important financial questions. After you take the checkup, you'll receive an email with your answers to each question and a score out of 100 in various categories of financial leadership. You'll hear me say this a couple times today, but these results are entirely confidential. They don't have any bearing on Community Foundation for Monterey County grants or opportunities. It's not a metric we're using to compare organizations. The tool is meant to support you and your financial leadership growth. Has anybody felt like this at some point recently? Like you're headed down the road, but maybe you've forgotten your glasses and you're looking about 6 feet in front of you? I've definitely felt this way recently. We're all working to emerge from the confusion and disorientation that we've experienced these past few years. We can get so caught up in the day-to-day, week-to-week cycle of managing issues and putting out fires. What we really want is to get back in touch with our long-term vision and to make sure the decisions we're making and opportunities we're pursuing are the right ones for our mission and organization. So we'll hold that goal together in mind today to get back in touch with the clarity of our long-term vision. So if you don't mind, would you share out in the chat, when you're facing an important decision about your organization's finances, what or maybe who helps you gain clarity? What are some tools or tips you can share with us that are working for you in supporting your good financial decisions? I like this. Trusted partners, absolutely. Good accountants and treasurers. Getting in touch with our clients, absolutely. Mentors. We're gonna hear from some trusted partners today. So I'm so glad to see some overlap in places I've gone for support as well. Clear communications. Oh, that's a good one. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Please continue to send those in. Whether you're a long-time established nonprofit, a startup organization, or somewhere in between, rebuilding and strengthening after years of changes in funding and organizational practices due to the COVID pandemic, your team and your mission will benefit from your financial leadership. So here's our working definition of financial leadership for today. We have the skills and experience necessary to make informed financial decisions and steward the organization's finances for mission impact. Let's keep this aspirational definition in mind as we explore the topic together. And notice one important idea: financial leadership is a practice. I recently had a nonprofit executive share with me, I keep better track of my organization's finances than I do my own personal accounts. And this is something 100% I can totally relate to. We're all works in progress, and good financial leadership is a long-term commitment. So with that in mind, Susie's going to launch a quick poll for us to kind of take the pulse quickly. This is, again, confidential, so please share as much as comfortable for you. What's your level of agreement with our definition here? We have the skills and experience necessary to make informed decisions and steward the organization's resources for mission impact. Are you feeling not at all, a little bit, somewhat, or to a great degree in agreement with that statement today?
Maybe one more second here for anybody else who wants to take the quick poll, and then we'll go ahead and close. Got about 85% responding. All right. And hopefully you should be able to see the results there.
All right, thank you so much, Susie. Thank you all of you for your sharing, and congratulations on taking some time out of your regular schedule to think with us about financial leadership. The best part of working at Center for Nonprofit Excellence is I'm consistently reminded of the wealth of knowledge and expertise and experience in our community. So we'll hold that thought in mind as we explore this topic together and think of future ways to connect and learn. So to explore this topic together, this definition of financial leadership, that we're making good financial decisions, that we're stewarding resources for mission impact, I'm going to take us through a little bit of a hypothetical case in point and analyze this idea through the context of our financial focus checkup. It's a question I've heard a lot from organizations lately. Is now the right time to add a new staff position? So let's say, for example, you're a growing organization and you're considering hiring a full-time staff person for a development and fundraising position you'd like to create. Maybe you've been in, let's say, divide and conquer mode when it comes to fundraising. I hear that a lot, can relate from personal experience. You know, our executive is the grant writer, our program staff is tracking the data, our office manager is handling the donor correspondence. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Everybody's doing part of a full-time job. We need to make more time for our own roles and responsibilities. And we need to decide if now is the right time to hire someone to manage the development piece of our organization so that our mission can thrive. And I think this is, first of all, a great question to be asking. Like I said, it's one I've heard a lot lately from our nonprofit partners, and a key developmental step in the life cycle of an organization. And of course, there are so many factors that go into a decision like this, right? It's not all about the money. As leaders, you're thinking about priorities and resource allocation, the quality of potential hires out there, your organizational efficiency, and more. But I'm going to try and sharpen the focus on the staffing question through the lens of the financial focus checkup, the tool we're going to share out with you today that we've created. And what I'm hoping this assessment tool can do is to pose clarifying questions for the financial aspect of this decision. Knowing your organization's financial strengths and areas to invest is essential to good decision-making. So there are 5 key areas of the financial focus checkup: financial awareness, asset building, revenue management, eye on expenses, and growth potential. The financial focus checkup will give you a score out of 100 in each category and an overall financial focus score, along with a list of your answers to each question. The score is a confidential metric meant to help you as a point of insight into your organization's decision-making, and it's not a point of comparison between organizations for Community Foundation for Monterey County, but hopefully a tool to help you share with your team and make those good decisions for mission impact. So let's briefly look at this question about staffing through the lens of these 5 categories. First is financial awareness. The first series of questions relate to your capacity to measure and assess your finances. To take on a decision like creating a new position at your organization, you need to know where you are and where you want to go. And you need to be sure that you can accurately measure both your starting point and your end goal. This section will ask questions like, can you accurately assess your organization's financial position? Are your accounting and reporting systems reliable and up to date? The first score you will get from a financial focus checkup will rate your organization's financial awareness and oversight and make sure your leadership decisions are founded on the common ground of reliable information. Next is asset building. Anytime you hire someone, and especially if you're doing so to create a new position at your organization, you're taking a risk. How well prepared financially are you to take that risk? How much money do you have in reserve free of restriction? Are you paying bills on time and meeting immediate needs in a way that frees you up to look down the road and clarify that long-term vision we talked about? If you're scoring your organization low in this category, maybe you're thinking twice about making a hire that could reduce your flexibility or cushion you might have for future uncertainty or economic challenge. Next is assessing your revenue. This section of the financial focus checkup will help you reflect on your revenue model. For example, if you already have established channels of earned or donated income, your organization may be ready to make a hire to take the reins of fund development and take mission impact to the next level. On the other hand, if you're not currently seeing the kind of reliable income you need with potential to grow, it may not be the right time to take this leap, especially in the form of a long-term commitment like a permanent hire. And keeping an eye on our expenses. Let's say you're getting good financial data, building assets on your balance sheet, and generating reliable revenue. How much money can you budget for this new hire to get on their feet and take over your fund development? Can you offer the kind of salary that will entice a seasoned fundraiser to join your organization? Are you in a position to propose a break-even budget or even a shortfall in the near term with the expectation that future years will see revenue increase and achieve a surplus over your expenses? And what key financial data points will you track along the way so that you can know if your investment in fund development is paying off for your organization and for your mission? And then finally, room to grow. The last section of the financial focus checkup will help you assess your growth potential. If you're thinking of creating a new position, hopefully you're in a growth mindset and you've identified ways your organization can build its capacity to function effectively and meet its mission. If, on the other hand, you're not looking to grow at this time, that's great to know about yourself as well, and should be something you consider in your hiring and staffing decisions. After you complete the financial focus checkup, you'll receive an email with your answers and results that includes a metric out of 100 for each of the 5 categories. Your final financial focus score will average your scores from the assessment. The information is shared confidentially between you and the Center for Nonprofit Excellence and has no impact on grant decisions or anything of the kind. We hope that it helps you gain clarity on the strengths and areas to invest in your organization. And staff at Center for Nonprofit Excellence would be excited to discuss your results and how we might be a resource for your financial decision-making. In making this tool, we relied on the advice and input of many veteran leaders in our community who tested the checkup and gave us excellent feedback, and we want to say thank you so much to them today. And that's what we hope you'll do with your results, that you'll take the checkup, get the email, and then take it to your team and the people you rely on for honest feedback and constructive insight, because that's where we're going to turn the conversation now. to hear from someone with excellent financial leadership experience who was also so generous in helping create the Financial Focus Checkup and offering to share with us here today. So I think I'm going to stop my share, and Susie's going to pin Susie Brusa. So Susie Brusa was the CEO of Rancho Cielo, a 100-acre campus in East Salinas, providing education, vocational training, and enrichment for underserved and at-risk youth in Monterey County for 12 years. Ms. Brusa's background is in the private sector, previously as a sales VP in agriculture and telecommunications companies. She's a certified professional coach and now runs her own consulting business, which has taken her around the nation and the world to Europe and Asia. Ms. Brusa holds a BA from Pomona College in Claremont, where she was Phi Beta Kappa, and attended Harvard Business School's Executive Education Program in Nonprofit Management. She's a past president of Junior League of Monterey County and serves on several other community boards. And we're so pleased and appreciative that you joined us today, Susie. And we'd just love to hear what's benefited you on your journey in financial leadership and supported you through financial challenges.
Well, thank you so much, Reed. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you all for coming to chat. And if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat, and Susie and Reed will be curating that, and I will have time at the end. I was asked to share kind of a snapshot of my journey. As Reed mentioned, my background is in the private sector. I've run some very large sales organizations, statewide sales organizations in telecommunications for the old PAC Bell SBC days. And so through that experience, I gained the skills that the Rancho Cielo board was looking for in hiring their first executive. They wanted someone to run it like a business. The founder, Judge Phillips, many of you know him. He does not have business background, and his lovely wife was doing the books. So our first finance director had quite the task of creating financial statements, accounting for depreciation, making sure that restricted funds were appropriately accounted for. And our first audit was in 2010, and it was quite a heavy lift. Meanwhile, the board had created an ambitious master plan of buildings they wanted to build and programs that they wanted to start. The annual budget was $750,000 a year, and the balance sheet showed asset value of about $4 million. There were two programs, a small youth corps program and the probation and Monterey County Office of Education led Silver Star Probation High School, which resided on campus. So most of that $750,000 went towards maintaining the 100-acre ranch, which, you know, there's quite a bit of maintenance, and the facilities were old and needed upgrading. Fast forward 12 years and about $30 million raised later. We had opened the Culinary Academy, we had built housing and started a housing program. We had built a 30,000 square foot building to train young people for technical vocations in the agriculture sector. We had 12 months of operating reserve. We had a good start on an endowment. The budget was about $4 million, and assets on the balance sheet were about $18 million. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. I know that in particular, social service agency leaders roll their eyes when someone says to you, run it like a business. I think what that means is applying a business mindset to financial decisions and approaching financial resilience like an operating metric, something that you hold yourself and your organization accountable to. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I've created a top 10, but I got to tell you, it's not funny like Letterman's top 10. I got no way to make it funny. So we're just going to go. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing is budgeting. So my finance director, and I consider the finance director to be a strategic thought leader with me. I treat her like a partner. some people need to outsource financials because they're too small to support such a person. That's a different category of what we were doing. I mean, I needed someone who would immediately approach me when she saw something, because she's going to be the first one to see it as she's creating financial statements. We always tried to create a conservative but realistic budget. And if we couldn't find the revenue for something, we did not allocate those expenses. In other words, we never presented a budget to the board for final approval that had a negative net income. And budgeting was a very circular activity where we would present drafts to a finance committee. They would give feedback and input. And the fact is, if the board says, well, we really want to do this activity, well, then you need to help us find the money for that. That is your job. Of course, we're always looking for new grants. And of course, we're going to try to work on earned revenue, but it is your job as a board member sitting in one of those very valuable board seats to open doors to financial resources and introduce us to donors who may be passionate about our mission. Number 2, monthly reporting and oversight. So sometimes we would skip a board meeting because we didn't feel like we had a meaty enough agenda. We never skipped a finance committee meeting. When it's going well, the treasurer or someone else from the finance committee is meeting with your financial director monthly or bi-monthly to make sure that they're reconciling bank statements and blah, 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 whatever those people do. And that it's a supportive relationship for the finance director. Now, you cannot be defensive in this relationship. Remember, you want that oversight. Your goal is to pass an audit with flying colors without a management letter. And so you just can't be defensive. You want people on your finance committee who are going to challenge you and play the devil's advocate and say, Susie, why are those expenses up in that so much higher than what we budgeted? And I need to then step in and explain. It's like going to the doctor. If you have something wrong with your elbow and you tell them it's your ankle, it's not going to get fixed. You have to be honest with your finance committee. Those people are there to help you. The finance committee also has other responsibilities, like creating policies that then they will submit ultimately to the board for approval. Of course, you need a conflict of interest policy. That's a mandatory requirement. But cash management, gift acceptance, policies about whether or not how you reimburse board members for expenses, which is not something that we did, but I know that a lot of businesses do, a lot of nonprofits do that. When you're having an audit, they, of course, are testing for fraud, but that's really, really rare in our industry. I think that really what they're looking for is how closely do you adhere to those policies that you said you're going to follow? You yourself said you're going to follow. And so you want the finance committee to help you do that work. And then budgeting process and oversight. You want them to play the devil's advocate, and you want them to go in the board meeting and say, we can't find the revenue for this program that y'all said we want to do. How are we going to find the revenue? That is board level discussion. Number 3, you have to know the true cost of your programs. Now, while we're at it, let's stop calling it overhead and let's call it infrastructure. It is that without which your programs cannot operate. Now, you can allocate some of those expenses out to your programs. That is your true program cost. If you're Meals on Wheels and someone gives you a truck, a brand new truck to deliver stuff, but you don't have a finance person to make sure that it's insured, and you don't have an HR person, granted, these are often the same person, the director of everything. You don't have a HR person to do the background check on the driver's licenses. That truck is useless to you. You cannot operate it. So again, you can allocate some of those expenses out, and you should do that. Number 4, diversify your income. I was obsessed with looking at my little colorful pie graph that showed all of the sources of my revenue. And I was trying to make those pie pieces about the same size. And I didn't really always get there. But, you know, you have grants and you have events and you have major gifts that are given, and you have earned revenue. I like to know of the grants, how much of them are public grants versus private foundation grants, meaning government money versus private money. You don't want to be reliant on any one piece of the pie. We spent an inordinate amount of time trying to grow the earned revenue piece of the pie. And if you're the YMCA and you have members, then you have a gigantic earned revenue piece of the pie. For us, it was like, well, should we open for dinner another night? Who's going to drive all the way out there for lunch during the day? Unless you can really scale something, you're not going to make that much of an impact on the earned revenue piece. And there's no shortage of good ideas. Oh my God. Do you know how often every day of the week, Susie, you know what you should do? The role of the financial resilience CEO is to narrow down and get the board to focus and not to try every single one. But I will tell you that we tried some that did not work. You know that the Portola Hotel has Peter B's, the brew pub. Wonderful people. They wanted to be supportive. And this is now years ago. This brewmaster has gone on to another location. But he wanted to make a beer with fresh hops. He was kind of on the front end of that trend. And so he thought Rancho could grow the hops and I can buy the hops from Rancho at market rate. And of course, my board's like, oh yeah, we're going to make so much money on hops. So I look up hops on the web and it says thrives on neglect. I'm thinking I can do this. So you have to have an infrastructure that costs money to build. You have these poles and a wire, and you've got ropes hanging from the wire because the hops are vines and they grow up the rope. Beautiful plant. So we build all that, costs a little bit of money, but again, we have the youth corps doing it. They're learning something. Okay, I'm fine. So I say to the brewmaster, now, you know, we have wild animals out here. Are the elk going to eat the hops? He says, no, they're so bitter. No one eats the hops. Within the first week, the elks mowed the hops. There were no hops. That was year one. Now we invest $1,000 in building a giant fence around the hop infrastructure. And the second year, the little hop plants come in. Oh, we added water. Did you know that plants like water to grow? We added water. The hops are so happy and they are beautiful and it's time to harvest. And so what you do is you drop the pulleys and the ropes fall to the ground so that you can harvest the hops off the vine. Brewmaster comes over with about 5 little Ziploc bags because he thinks that's what he's going to get. We have 10 garbage containers full of hops. Now, you buy hops by the pound at market rate. A hop weighs about the same as a piece of Kleenex. So we had thousands and thousands of hops. We made $120. So sometimes these things don't work. Look at your pie. Number 5. Unrestricted cash is king in this business. Let me say that one more time. Unrestricted cash is king in this business. If you have an option of how to get cash, always check that box. That's how you can pay for your infrastructure. Number 6, set a goal to have operating reserves. When I first started at Rancho, we were raising money to get through the next month. I mean, we had no money. And I just insisted that we set a goal to have operating reserves. And so then we just started showing it. You can use Luna if you want to as an indicator of that. So it is your cash that without the restricted money doesn't count. Literally cash on hand that is unrestricted. And we showed it as an amount at the bottom of the financial statement. And at the rate which we burn per month, how many months was that? So then we set a 3-month target, then a 6-month target. And then finally we got to a 12-month target. And I have to tell you that I think of my accomplishments and the things that I'm the proudest of at Rancho Cielo, I think my leadership of that effort might have been the most important. It assures the long-term viability of the business, driving that train. Number 7, when you're running business, you have to be willing to make tough decisions. If you're running a nonprofit business and you have a product that's not selling well, you dump it or you improve it, you do something else. I think that sustainability in our industry is defined by the market. So if you have a program and you've got a lot of vacancies, the market doesn't want the program. If you have a wait list, the market does. If, on the other hand, if you can't convince donors if you cannot inspire them to share their treasure with you, to pay for that program, again, it's not sustainable and the market says no. You have to be willing to pull the plug. And that is hard because it means you're not going to serve those maybe 6 people that you were serving who really, really depend on that program. And you're going to have to lay off staff. This is not fun. But again, financial resilience is our goal. And the health of the overall organization is what we're aiming for. Rancho had a horse program when I got there. I understand we've partnered with someone again to do a horse program. Partnering is a great way to grow. We had a horse program when I got there. And what happens when you have a horse program is people donate to you their old sick horses so that what you have are big vet bills. And we weren't really serving that many kids. And so when you looked at the numbers on paper, it just didn't math out. We had to close that program. And if they had not closed that program, I'm not sure that I would have taken the job because it just seemed, well, you know what I'm saying. Number 8, you want a powerful board. You want people all along the continuum of very fiscally conservative to no, it's not half full, it's overflowing kind of view, so that you will get a true engagement on some of the most difficult questions that face you. And I'm not talking about political ideology at all here. I'm talking about how business people approach their financials. When I got to Rancho, there was a founders board. And there was nothing wrong with any of those people. They were the people that Judge needed at the time. Remember, he was maintaining the property. And so there would be a leak and they would be willing to come out and dig it up and roll up their sleeves and help him repair it. But meanwhile, they had created this very ambitious master plan. And I was not going to be able to raise the kind of money I needed to raise with that board because they were not willing to put in the work. So one of the first things that we did was implement term limits. I cannot emphasize enough to you how important that is. You need to constantly be changing up the perspective that sits around the table. 100% must give and get. We did not have a set amount. I know some boards do. I sit on a board that has a minimum give. We didn't want to do that because that eliminates some of the people that might be from the community that you serve, but they must give something and they must be willing to help network in order to get. Number 9, how and when to grow. Again, there's no shortage of good ideas. But this goes back to your board table discussion. Today's decision about capital expenditures will turn out either to be a competitive advantage tomorrow or a burden tomorrow. And so as we grew, we were very conservative. We never took out loans. We did a $10 million capital campaign. And I was so happy to be able to advocate that we not break ground until we had almost all of the pledges in. Even despite that, after we broke ground, we had $1 million pledge back out. And so we had to make some tough decisions. We completed the building, but there were 4 wings in the building for 4 programs. And we had 2 programs that we wanted to start immediately. And we had scheduled the following year to do the 3rd and the following year to do the 4th. We left the 3rd and 4th wings unfinished inside, which gave us a minute to raise another, $400,000 to finish out the inside of each wing. That did delay the start of one of the programs. But again, the financial resilience of the whole. I want to just a little bit about capital. Capital money is the easiest money to raise because you are offering naming opportunities. And so I want to say that if you're having trouble raising capital money, I would recommend that you really rethink what you're doing, because the operating money is harder to raise. And if you can't raise the capital money, are you 100% confident that you're going to be able to support the program? The second thing I want to say about capital campaigns is, we had a $10 million campaign, if it's a large campaign like that, I advocate hiring a professional consultant. We went around and around to the board about this. We raised way more money by hiring a professional. What he did was he made us braver, for one thing. Like one of the committee members would say, oh, that guy's good for $100,000. We'll ask him for $100,000. And the consultant said, no. That guy's good for $500,000. We wouldn't have asked for enough money. He also right-sized the budget, so we knew what to ask for and how much we actually needed to raise. And he just kept us really organized and on time. So I recognized that and recommend that to you. And number 10, work on an endowment and treat it like a capital campaign. Be methodical, be organized, ask for enough. So that's my top 10 list of running it like a business. Again, number 1, budget. Number 2, monthly reporting and oversight. Number 3, evaluating the true cost of your programs. Number 4, diversify your income sources. Number 5, say it with me, unrestricted cash is king. Number 6, set a goal to create operating reserves. Number 7, be willing to make tough decisions. Number 8, create the most powerful board you can create. Number 9, grow prudently. And 10, create an endowment. And with that, I turn it back to Reed if there are questions.
Well, thank you so much, Susie. That was a wonderful presentation, and I love the top 10. And you said it wasn't going to be funny, but everybody loved the hops story. So keep that in your back pocket for whenever somebody gives you that run it like a business advice. I love that. I did see some great comments and questions in the chat. And a little back and forth, people helping each other out. That you mentioned Luna, the liquid unrestricted net assets. I think that gets to your cash is king part well. Mentioning a lot too about your ideas about the true costs. Yeah, a good question here about just working with that board of directors. I'm sure that was such a shift from the for-profit world to the nonprofit world, and I don't know, tips and techniques for encouraging them to be those getters of sources of funding, or to provide support in areas where they may be new to nonprofits as well.
A couple of things. So again, getting the right people around the table is really important. I remember Judge saying to me, how did you get Ted here? Meaning Ted Balistreri. And I said, I just asked him if he would join. And he said, yes. So, evaluate who you want sitting around the table and then ask them. They can say no. But then once I had on, and I'm not looking for names on letterhead, I am looking for people who will put in work, who understand what it takes. And so once you have on your letterhead, I had John Chapin and Ted Balistreri and Joanne Taylor and Pete Delgado. These are people who will put in work. Suddenly everybody wants to be on my board. And then I can make choices about who sits in those seats, because those seats, you need to consider them like real estate assets. And then everyone needs to be on a committee. That's how you keep them engaged. And those committees need to meet, monthly or bi-monthly, whatever, of what is it that interests them. We created a binder because we were, operating on paper, which we then scanned into a Dropbox that everybody had access to. But we started with a binder with tabs of, this is how, and I did an orientation with every new board member. And it was very clear, there's a job description that includes give and get, and everyone signed that agreement. And we talked about it constantly. It just was part of the culture around the board table, is that it's their responsibility to open doors to financial resources and to ensure fiscal health.
I love it. And another question on the lines of fiscal health, I think number 10 was endowment. Was that on the top 10? Can you talk a little bit about how that's different from the operating reserve and just what having an endowment meant for your financial resilience?
So yeah, you need both, because the endowment is long-term money that you don't touch, and you just, when it's small, we actually, I don't think, took a payout. We keep our endowment at the community foundation, actually. But that's not a requirement. You don't have to, and that's not why they're doing this today. They're not doing it to plug endowments, but I like a community foundation approach myself, because the way that the community foundation invests their assets is for long-term growth. And again, we approached that like a capital campaign, where we went out we created a case statement, a beautiful case statement, to explain why we needed an endowment and the benefit of long-term viability of the organization. And then asked people for pledges. And sometimes they don't even tell you how much they're going to give you, but you get an idea. I asked them to sign something, and if they would indicate a range, that would be helpful for my planning purposes. And I just set a target. I just said, well, I need about $15 million for an endowment, because if I'm going to get 5% of that every year, that would really seriously assist in the heavy lifting of annual fundraising. So I kind of backed into it that way. And I think we had maybe $10 million or $8 million promised. And I don't know where they are with that now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Congratulations. And also to your point about changing boards and having term limits and who's on the board, an endowment sort of sets you up for the future in a way that, I don't know, maybe builds in a little flexibility for the changing whims of board members in a way that can be positive and stabilizing. If I know Susie Polnazic was looking at our chat as well. Susie, did you find a question you thought you might pose for the group?
Well, definitely. I'm glad you covered the board related question. A follow-up to that was around who leads with recruitment, especially finding that good mix of door openers and people with expertise. Is it the executive director or the board president really who takes the initiative on the onboarding and recruiting?
For board members specifically, do you mean, Susie?
I think so, yeah.
We have a governance committee, and I recommend that. We created an executive committee that was the president, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, and the chair of the governance committee. And put people on that committee who were interested in helping us recruit board members. Then I didn't know what I was doing. I just made this stuff up. I created a matrix thinking through the different aspects of things that we were trying to train. So obviously I needed people from hospitality, and I needed some people from agriculture, and I needed some people from construction, and I needed people with financial acumen. And then I wanted to have a diversity of racial makeup on the board. I wanted geographical diversity. I wanted age diversity. And, you know, I didn't want it to be all men, all women, etc. So I just created this matrix on a, you know, piece of legal paper. And as we had board members, I would check boxes across the top of which, you know, their age and what industry they're from and where they live and kind of what is their social network. Like, are they a member of Monterey Peninsula Country Club? You know, that was a box. Are they in with the TELC, the Ag Leadership Council that John Dorigo runs, that raises all that money for Natividad? That was a box. So I just tried to make check marks all over that page to make sure that I had diversity. And as the governance committee would discuss potential members, they would be looking at that matrix. You know, obviously we need someone in finance. We don't have anybody right now at finance because so-and-so is going to term off. So we absolutely have to fill that box. So that would become the priority.
Love that. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot in the chat as well. So I love you bringing your experience working with the board to bear. It's such a unique part of the sector. And maybe to close this out for today, if you could give yourself some advice, if you could go back to, you know, when you were starting your leadership at a nonprofit, what would you tell yourself about financial leadership?
Well, I think I needed to learn. I think I needed to learn how valuable it was for everybody on campus to understand the financials. I didn't get that at first. I was really focused on making sure the board got it. And that obviously was important. But then I had a staff member come to me and say something. I don't want to go into it because I think it would identify who he was, but it just reflected such an incredible lack of understanding of the financials that my jaw dropped and I didn't get it. And I think, so then I, you know, fixed that or tried to fix it. But it's important for everyone, I think, on campus or in your organization to understand where you are financially and where the money is coming from and how hard everybody is working to raise it. That you can't just, if you're going to spend it, it has to be for a really good reason because it is precious. It's hard to come by.
Yeah, I love that. I find that, yeah, staff, they want to know more about the organization and how it works. And it can be like you're saying, a professional development and a little team building to make people feel kind of included and have a little buy-in. So thank you so much for all you shared today. I see several requests in the chat for this top 10 list. So if you don't mind, maybe we can share.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, I love that.
I'll send it to you. I'm sorry I didn't get to monitor the chat. So if I missed something that you wanted me to address, I apologize.
You have many thank yous coming in our presentation. So.
Oh, wonderful. Can you send me the chat, Susie? I'll review it.
Of course.
Well, thank you. It's my honor to be here with you today. I very much appreciate having been invited, and thanks to everybody for showing up.
Thank you so much, Susie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and hopefully send you home with some resources. Can people see the PowerPoint again? So of course, we'll be sharing out the financial focus checkup, and we encourage you to take that to your team, try it out, give us more feedback. We'll continue to try to improve it, make it better, make it serve your needs and your decision making, and steward resources for mission impact, that aspirational definition of financial leadership we began today with. After taking the financial focus checkup, you also have the opportunity to make an office hours appointment. This is an ongoing Center for Nonprofit Excellence offering where you can meet with CNE staff and talk through opportunities or decisions or anything you'd like to reach out and and get some feedback on, or we're always thinking of ways we can be the resource or the resource connector here for our nonprofit community. We have upcoming workshops. Our nonprofit board roundtable is ongoing. The next one is in July, moving your board from ideas to action. I'm pretty sure I heard a lot about that today in our conversation with Susie. And then Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series launching in August 3rd, designing organizations where everyone thrives. That will be a series facilitated by our own Susie Polnazik. So please be on the lookout for an email with resources from today's workshop. And please stay in touch with Center for Nonprofit Excellence by signing up for our regular newsletter. We'll share evaluation links and the financial focus checkup. And once again, just a great thank you to Susie Brusa for your generosity and wisdom in sharing today. And I hope you'll stay in touch with us.